edition. Carl Dukes, as you guys know, is obviously a part of our team here, as well as we rotate each week and try to get you guys the best insights possible on what's going on in the NFL right now, the games that were played, the games to come. And obviously we've got Baldy with us, and he is the best in the biz when it comes to those breakdowns. Again, if you like what you're watching, please subscribe on YouTube, subscribe Spotify, the Odyssey app, wherever you get your podcast. And obviously we come to you guys in the visual form and the audio. We got a lot to get to in this edition, Baldy. We want to hit on some of the key games this weekend, like Green Bay, Minnesota, Baltimore, Buffalo, Dallas and the Giants, Tampa and Philly playoff rematch. That Sunday night Seattle-Detroit game looks juicy. We'll touch on some of the 0-3 teams and just how desperate they are. And we have to give a shout out to Jaden Daniels for his historic, and it was historic, performance on Monday night. But Baldy, let's start with the Thursday night matchup we have here. The Dallas Cowboys might have the worst D-tackle room in the NFL. Jerry Jones has built a roster devoid of space eaters, devoid of guys who can fill gaps and take on double teams and win. He's built a team devoid of special running backs. The offensive line looks to be in decline, certainly if we compare it to 2 or 3 years ago, Baldy, when they were best of breed. It looks like a flawed Frankenstein football team. And the Giants have their faults as well. I tend to think it's going to be a cavalcade of points in this one. What's your assessment of the state of the Dallas Cowboys right now?
Well, I mean, it's not a great roster, Jason. Like, I played for the Cowboys. I know the history of that organization since 1960. You go back to, Dan Reeves and Walt Garrison and Tony Dorsett and Emmitt Smith and Tony Pollard and Zeke Elliott. They've always had great running backs, always. They don't have one right now. It's just weird. And Derrick Henry maybe could have been a Cowboy. He sure looked like a Hall of Fame running back to me the other day. But, forget about the roster. I mean, if you want to stop the run in this business, you could stop the run, Jason. You might have to sell out. Mm-hmm. But it's basically, if you give a Hall of Fame running back an open B gap because nobody's there, he's going to find the open B gap. Yeah. If I can go pull YouTube highlights of Lamar Jackson in Pompano Beach, Florida, as a 15-year-old running a read option, and the Cowboys act like they never saw it. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just assignment football. So, like, the thing that, more than the roster, which is a concerning thing, more than the roster is, what are they doing? The basics of run defense. They're giving up 5.5 yards a carry. They had no idea. Gave up 260. It looked like a bad college game the other day. An SEC team against, a small college team. But the basics of run defense, run gap, run fits, like, that's the basics of every defense. Get your heads in the A gap. Those defensive tackle positions you're talking about, which isn't strong, but like get somebody in the B gap. Let's fill the C gap. Let's set the edge. Like, these are fundamental things on the defense. And then if you go, okay, well, then you're asking Trayvon Diggs or Kalen Carson or, Donovan Wilson to make a tackle on a freight train in the open field. Well, they're going to close their eyes and grab air. So it looked terrible. It really looked bad. And so if you look at what the Giants are doing, they were terrible week 1. It was awful. They got better week 2, even though they lost. They had a chance to win. Last week, they played a good game. The defense just rattled Deshaun Watson all game long. They took advantage of a broken offensive line. Like all those guys you talked about, Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, Kayvon, Ojulari, they all showed up. And Shane Bowen called a great game. Like, he blitzed the hell out of Cleveland. And they sacked him 8 times, hit him 15. I would say dial up that pressure again. And if Daniel Jones, he wasn't great, but he's got a great player in Malik Neighbors. He's got a dependable back in Motor Singletary. The offensive line is playing cohesive, unified football. There's not breakdowns and leaks. They've got a fighter's chance. Now, they've never been able to stop Micah Parsons since he came in this.
Right.
League. He's ruined their offense. So, and even when they try tripping him or double, like, he still ruins it. And he chases Daniel Jones. Like, so to me, if they can do a reasonable job of containing Micah, they got a chance to win this game tonight.
I'm very intrigued by Daniel Jones rushing props in this game, Baldy, because why would you not like you get with Singletary in the pistol and you run sprint plays away from Parsons' side. Like, I mean, it's not rocket science, right? You don't want to let Parsons wreck the game. We run at him with power, we run away from him with speed, and they've got the personnel to do it. No?
Yeah, no, they do. They do. I think Daniel Jones has to be a big part of the run game. I mean, all you have to do is just pull out these Lamar runs last week,
Right?
And how and just how fundamentally unsound they were in stopping a basic read option play. Like Daniel Jones is good at it, and he's been good at it. Now it's led to some injuries also over the course of his career, but I don't think Brian Dable is thinking about anything else but winning the game any way that he can tonight and getting in front of that crowd and getting themselves to 500 and getting themselves into the race and staying relevant. So he'll do whatever he has to call tonight in order to get that done. So does Dallas work on some of those issues they had last week? Because it's going to come. It's going to come out of this week.
I would look into Daniel Jones and Singletary anytime touchdown props. The Cowboys, Baldy, have somehow allowed 11 rushing touchdowns in their last 4 games. 11 rushing touchdowns allowed in the last 4 games. Do the Cowboys even try to run the ball in this one, or has that ship sailed? Like, Dak's going to have to throw it 40 to 45 times, whether we're playing on the moon, whether we're playing at home, whether we're playing in the Meadowlands.
Well, I mean, if the Giants look, I don't think they can just shut down CeeDee Lamb. He's just they move him around too much, but he's not playing great right now. He had a drop last week. He was part of the issue. But I don't know that they have enough right now for Dak just to drop back and throw it. Like, that's not a good formula. Mm-hmm. Like, they look like a sawed-off team when you have Deuce Vaughn and you have Kevontae Turpin and Brandon Cooks. Like, I like a big team. They're a little team. And, you're not gonna pound the belly of any defense with the running backs that they have. But it's up to Dak right now. And they certainly have the creativity to do a lot of things like did week 1 against Cleveland to nullify a pass rush to get some plays. So, it's going to come down really just to turnovers. Which team takes care of the football right now?
Yeah, Dak 10-3-1 against the spread in his career against the Giants. I couldn't back him here. The over, I like it, but you could have got it at 43.5. So I hate seeing 2 points. That's a big deal. And as we mentioned, Daniel Jones rushing props could be a good play here. Baldy, Green Bay, Minnesota. Maybe my favorite game of the weekend.
Yeah.
LaFleur, it's been a masterclass from identifying Malik Willis to getting him ready to play so quickly, to basically playing rugby week 1 with him and Jacobs against an Indianapolis team that can't stop the run, opening the playbook up more for the second week now that he's been in your building, and probably a shock to the system how well they passed the ball last week. Also, they did a good job with the espionage of this, keeping that Jordan Love door ajar just to give people something to think about. Mm-hmm. Brian Flores, I don't know that any defensive coach is better than him right now. He's not blitzing 50% of the time like last year. He has adjusted. He has adapted, and he is still incredibly effective. And he's had the secret sauce his whole career against that Shanahan family tree. Like, he's 3-0 against the master, Kyle Shanahan himself.
Yeah.
This is a really, really intriguing matchup. What stands out to you about it?
Well, all the things you just mentioned, Jason, you're spot on. I mean, you've done your homework on this. Flores has been amazing. I mean, they've given up 30 points in 3 games, Jason. Like, C.J. Stroud told Brian Flores after the game, like, hats off. Like, he was, for the first time ever, he looked confused about what to do. And honestly, I've been studying Flores. It just keeps evolving. And now that he's got Stephon Gilmore out there who's still on his game, still a really good player, they know they can lock up a guy on the outside to free somebody else up. Andrew Van Ginkel, nobody knows who he is, but just another Wisconsin linebacker that's been cross-trained, can do everything. He could easily, after 3 weeks, be the defensive player of the year. Like, he's everywhere. You don't really know what front they're going to be in. You don't never know on third down who's coming and who's dropping. They played, Mel Kiper's making a big deal about cover 2. Heck, they played full deep coverage last week.
Yeah.
What are you going to say about that, Mel? I like Mel. But I think they give you a lot. They don't let anything go over their head. Those 2 safeties, Harrison Smith and Cade Bynum, they're really good at what they do. They rally to the ball. But I mean, Matt LaFleur is an amazing coach. He just is. Like Jordan Love, okay, he got his contract, got hurt. When they traded for Malik Willis, I'm like, what are they doing? They watch his first play last week was 30 yards to Jaden Reed. Yeah. He hit Christian Watson on a 30-yard spray fade. He ran on the opening touchdown of the game. They went right down the field, and he hasn't come close to turn the ball over. And they're running a little similar offense to what Baltimore has done, with Patrick Ricard and the power position. They use Tucker Kraft in that position there in Green Bay. Some read options, some play action fakes. I mean, everybody's touching the ball. And, oh, by the way, Josh Jacobs is still really good. So, this is going to be it's going to be a great matchup. Now, maybe Malik Willis falters against this defense, and maybe that's the story. But you watch Sam Darnold with Kevin O'Connell. Coaching matters. His creativity, his design in the plays, using Justin Jefferson and Aaron Jones, the two great players they are, and the way that they manipulate the defense with their formations and their motions. It's really good. It's really creative. I'm happy for Sam. He's got stability. He's playing great. I don't know if he's gonna fall off the cliff anytime soon, the way he's being coached right now.
I couldn't get behind either of these sides, Baldy. I just think it's such a close game. Like, is Jordan Love going to play? Is he going to play at full capacity? This is a big step up for Sam Darnold and that group going on the road outdoors against this defense that looks pretty good. I am playing it through Aaron Jones, though, right? This is an Aaron Jones revenge game. Aaron Jones, since week 15 last year, has been going over 100 scrimmage yards almost by birthright. And Green Bay's run defense, like the numbers, to me, paint a picture of a group that's improved, but still with a ways to go. Like, they're 13th in run defense EPA this year, 4.7 a carry. I could see Aaron Jones getting his hands on the football quite a bit in the run game and the pass game. Do you think he features in this game plan?
Oh, I mean, last week he caught a touchdown pass. He spread out wide receiver. They put Justin Jefferson in the backfield, and they ran a play for Aaron Jones. He can beat you in the screen game. He's always been an excellent receiver. Look, the greatest motivator in this whole industry is revenge, period. Like, Aaron Jones has been thinking about this game since the day Green Bay gave up on him, and they said, we want Josh Jacobs. I mean, you're going to get, first of all, the thing about Aaron Jones, since the day he came out of Texas El Paso, the guy's got great vision. He is, like, he sees, if there's a hole, he sees it, he finds it. He's got all the ability to get to it. The only thing that has ever slowed him down are some knick-knack injuries. Mm-hmm. And that's it. Otherwise, the guy is an A player. So, and he loves playing football. So he's going to be a motivated guy. He knows that field. He knows that defense. I mean, at least the defensive philosophy has changed, but he knows the players. He knows Kenny Clark, Rashawn. He knows all those guys. So he's going to be chirping. He's going to be hungry. It's like, I remember talking, and I built a good relationship with him. I remember when he went to play in Dallas 2 years ago, he ran for 4 touchdowns. Yeah. He was back in Texas. He's a Texas kid. He's from El Paso. He grew up a Cowboy fan. He couldn't wait to play the Cowboys, Jason, and just put one on him. And I think he feels the same way about going to Lambeau this weekend.
Yeah, I like Jones over rushing attempts, 13.5. I like him over his scrimmage yards as well. Anytime touchdown. He wants to Lambeau leap it, right? Like, it ain't going to be a Sam Darnold keeper from the two, Baldy. I know that much.
I have a feeling that whoever runs his social media account, I don't know if he has one or big one, I don't know. But somebody's going to be on the sideline capturing him and making that leap when and if that happens.
I lean under here. Green Bay at home last 2 years, 6-3 to the under. Minnesota on the road last 2 years, 6-4 to the under. Green Bay home games averaging 38 points. Minnesota road games averaging 43 points in that span. We're sitting right at that 43.5. Not my favorite play, but
the one thing I'd say, Jason, is, Brian Flores has been there for 2 years now. So, Matt Flores had a chance to kind of see it.
Yep.
Digested a little bit. A lot of new personnel, Jonathan Greenard, all these new guys in Minnesota right now, Andrew Van Ginkel, a lot of new personnel. But what he's trying to do, especially on third down, I feel like Matt LaFleur knows the challenge that Flores presents. I believe he's probably spent a great deal of time in the offseason studying it. Like and now I don't know the quarterback situation.
Right.
They have done a great job with Malik, and they've taken care of the football. So I'm curious what Matt has sort of gleaned from seeing this defense a couple of times now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a hell of a game. I cannot wait to tune in. Let's stay in the NFC, Baldy. This one, a playoff rematch.
Yeah.
The Bucks, the Eagles. The league comes at you fast, right? After week 2, there's a lot of people ready to anoint the Bucks, and they did a lot of impressive stuff. But then week 3 happened, and there were a lot of people looking at that Eagles game, them going to the Saints, what the Saints have been doing offensively. Man, if the Eagles lose this one, right, if Vic Fangio's defense gets gutted here, could that whole thing topple, right? Is Sirianni in trouble? All that noise.
That will be, that will all be brought back up again. The only thing that, saved Nick this week after some of the decisions he made was the fact that they won the game. And Saquon and Dallas Goedert made the 2 biggest plays of the game. The quarterback is guilty of turning the ball over. It's been an issue. Todd Bowles believes that the quarterback, Jalen Hurts, reads the rush, isn't very good against the blitz. Now, Kellen Moore's come in. They've got a much better answer to the blitz this year. Todd knows that. But he's relentlessly going to blitz, and he trusts his 2 corners, McCullum and Dean, to hang in there with any receivers. They're excellent. They're tall. They're very good, route readers. They played last week without Vita. Right. He's the difference. Without Kalijah Cansey, without Antoine Winfield. Those are difference maker type players. But honestly, what you just described introducing this game it is such a week to week league that you can look at all the trends and you can study all the stuff, but there's no indicators of what a team's going to do. Nobody could have said that Bo Nix would go down there and make the throws that he made with receivers last week against that defense.
Yeah.
But he did. And he ran 9 times, 6 of them were for first downs or a touchdown. And so Jalen could do the same thing. Like, I think this is a Saquon Barkley game. And I said this on some Philadelphia stations this week. If Saquon gets between 25 or 30 carries, the Eagles are going to win this game.
Do you think we've seen Hurts's legs activated more and more now, right? Like, he's got 13 carries in a game. Now, I know some of those are kneel downs at the end of a half or whatever. He didn't run as much last week. Do you think they attacked this defense with Hurts on design runs?
It hurt him. Like, Bo Nix hurt him last week.
Yeah.
Some of those. He doesn't look as explosive as he used to me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't see him running away from guys when he's going sideways. If he's going north-south, he's still very good with the ball, just being able to navigate through, lanes down the defense. But trying to outrun guys to the sideline, like, he doesn't look like he did earlier. So I don't know if there's anything there. Look, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin got shut down last week. I mean, they were invisible, which is bizarre. So I would think that they want Mike Evans on this rookie out there, Quinyon Mitchell. And if they could get him lined up on him, I mean, he's a great go route runner. He's a great red zone receiver. Like, I think they need to get back on track. The one thing in the run game, they were terrible running the ball last week. But the one guy that looks like he's better is this rookie, Bucky Irving.
Yeah.
He looks better than Rashawn White.
Rashawn White looks like he's on the outs. Yeah.
Bucky Irving looks like he's ready to – and maybe it's something to look at the carries and the numbers. And to me, he looks like a better fit. He's a little more explosive. He sees things a little quicker. Like, I'm curious if Bucky Irving gets more carries this week in this Tampa run game.
Mm-hmm. Last year, obviously, we know the Eagles were fractured, right? I mean, their season was over before they even played the Bucs. Like, that's how bad it was. Yeah. And then they get embarrassed 32-9. Does that factor into this game in any way, schematically, from what happened in that game, or just from the psychological mindset of, hey, these were the dudes, right, who put the final nail in our coffin?
No, I think you're actually insightful here, Jason, in that I think it's more psychological. Going to Tampa, they haven't had good success down there. I mean, they all remember how bad it finished and felt, and they're going to step on that same field. It's probably some kind of, I don't know. I think the hurricane will be long gone, but still, it's going to be humid as hell. The heat's a factor. It always is, especially in September.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if Saquon's getting 25, 30 carries, does he need an IV at halftime? Those kind of things, like, you just don't know. But I've seen it happen to great players before. Like, I do think there's a psychological thing. Like, this is where it all ended, and it was ugly. And so, yeah, I mean, I can now, there'll be a lot of Eagle fans down there, but there was in the playoffs too. But regardless, this is something I think they have to overcome for sure.
Are you leaning Eagles here, Baldy? I'm gleaning from you that you may be leaning Eagles, but I do not want to put words in your mouth.
I don't like, if they're without Devontae and AJ and Britton Covey, like, can you exist against a Todd Bowles defense throwing to Dallas Goedert into running Saquon? Like, I don't think that's enough. And I don't know if Paris Campbell or Johnny Wilson or some of these other guys out there, if they're going to make a difference against him. I want to see Jalen Hurts handle what Todd Bowles is going to bring out of him and see if they're adept. I don't feel great about this Eagles team in this situation this week without the top two receivers.
Yeah, I'm off this game entirely. I may play some Hurts props, but this one, with all the injuries and everything, it's a little too murky for me to get my wallet involved in it. Let's go to one more NFC matchup. It is Monday night. Yep. It looks to be far and away the best Monday night game of the week. Mike Macdonald, 3 games as a head coach, Baldy, defensive head coach. Rarity to see those guys hired these days. And he's already got something in common with the mighty 1979 Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay. The first team since the 79 Steelers to go 3-0, allowing 150 passing yards or less in all 3 games. Now, remember, they were running the ball 70% of the time back then in 79. The worm has turned. So you could talk about who they faced and who they haven't faced, and I get it. But coming in with a new regime, replacing a defensive guru, former head coach, pretty impressive. The Lions, I felt like that last week, Baldy, they got their mojo back in that they realized that they've got some road graders up front, and maybe we're getting a little too cute. Let's come out drive 1, establish Montgomery. Let's come out drive 2, establish Gibbs. And then let's just keep hitting them with them all day long, right? And it worked, and Arizona's defense is vulnerable to the run, and so they gutted it out. But this still isn't a totally well-oiled machine. Aiden Hutchinson, however, is probably the best defensive player on the planet right now, I would say. Really interesting matchup. Can Seattle make this a ball game? Can Seattle muck it up and keep it close?
Yeah, they can. Look, Detroit probably doesn't win that game last week, Jason, if they don't execute that hook and lateral at the end of the half.
Yeah.
I don't think they probably practiced it and made it look as good as they did in the game. It was perfection. And they needed that touchdown. They didn't score in the second half. Jared Goff, for whatever reason, is struggling right now. He didn't look anything like this 3-game stretch at all last year. So they're basically a 20-point offense right now. But they did get to the run game, and Montgomery and Gibbs were both good. So they can lean on that for sure. Seattle, DK is just, he's just a difference maker. I mean, he hit a 71-yarder last week and a double move, and the offensive line held up just fine. And Geno, fed the beast. And Miami was awful offensively. So, Skylar Thompson couldn't get the ball to Tyreek. But as a group, they're playing without Kenneth Walker. Zach Charbonnet's back there. He's battling. They're a tough, gutty team, and nobody knows who Boye Mafe is, but he's giving the pass rush. And
quarterbacks do, Baldy. Quarterbacks do.
And he's getting there. Look, they were flawed last year. Defensively, they were flawed. Mike has done a great job with the secondary. You look at Woolen and Witherspoon and Love, like they're playing very sound football right now. And so I absolutely think they could give this thing a game on Monday night. Mike Macdonald is a great teacher. He likes to get things fixed in real time, things that he doesn't like. He's very, very direct to the players. And I think the players have responded to his coaching style.
This series has been crazy. The last 3 times these guys have played, the games have averaged 80 points and 913 yards. Like it's been, I remember they played in overtime and they've played each other a lot recently.
Okay.
Seattle's tended to win some wacky games. I don't think this is that, Baldy. I feel like the Lions defense is leading their way right now. And we know that Seattle, right? It's like McDonald, I don't think wants Geno chucking it all over the place against Aiden Hutchinson, even though nobody can really run on the Lions. Like, I think he probably tries to manage this game by managing the clock and keeping the clock moving, being judicious about when they take their shots. I think this sets up as more of a defensive struggle. Are you with me there?
Yeah, I see what the over and under is 46.5 here. I would, if I was, that type of a fan, I would take the under on it.
Me too.
Sure. I think this could be played in the hands of, defensive coordinators, Aaron Glenn, Mike McDonald. And I would think that the teams are going to play it pretty close to the vest. And then, how are you scripting and executing your explosive plays? Like, Seattle got a couple of them last week. That's the difference in the game. Hook and lateral for Detroit. They got one. Jameson Williams has been pretty quiet. And I don't know how long you could keep a guy with that kind of speed quiet. So I'm sure that they're looking, to maybe get Woolen on a double move or try to get behind him in some way. That's the defensive offense coordinator in Detroit, Ben Johnson's. That's his bailiwick right now. So let's see what he's got dialed up.
I went back and looked at the Ravens-Lions game from last year, Baldy, just because that we haven't – Ben Johnson and McDonald haven't crossed paths that much. But they did on that day. Okay. That was a perfect storm for the Ravens. That game was over really by the end of the first quarter because Baltimore eviscerated the Lions' defense.
I remember.
However, the Lions' offense, which was humming at that point in time, had 97 yards on 25 plays in the first half against McDonald.
Yeah.
And McDonald's not a big quarters guy. He's not a big cover 4 guy. Jared Goff saw more quarters coverage in that game than he did all year. And Baldy, when he saw it, he was 5 of 9 for 29 yards. He was also sacked twice for minus 16 yards. So he dropped back 11 times against cover 4 and produced a net 13 yards.
Well, what that says to me, and I remember the game, I think, was it 35-3, Jason?
Yeah.
They scored a touchdown. But, what I recall is in that game, I mean, and the statistics back it up. I mean, it was just a check down. Like he couldn't get anything down the field. And then he's holding it, waiting for somebody to uncover, and now he's getting sacked. So, they couldn't get any shots against him. Now, I don't know what Mike has planned this week against him, but if you can – now, they're still learning the defense. So, back then I think that was
humming along.
They were humming pretty good. So, that's a pretty good game plan right there to go quarters against Jared. Like, I'm sure Jared's looking at that game last year, the same thing that you just did, just studying and seeing what they can learn from it. You want to learn from your losses. So we'll see how that kind of impacts it.
Yeah, really intriguing matchup. Before we move off, Baldy, I just want to again highlight Aiden Hutchinson. He's got 25 pressures. Nobody else in the league has more than 18. Like, he's the first person since Aldon Smith to have a 5-game regular season stretch with 11.5 sacks or more. Like, he's hit the quarterback 11 times already this year. Is he right now the best defensive player on the planet?
He's a monster. He's a monster. He's going to get some backup guys, in this stretch right now. Seattle was on they're on their 3rd or 4th right tackle.
Yeah.
So that makes it different right now. Like some of the guys are going against, but he's what you saw at Michigan is what you're seeing right now. He makes plays on the other side of the field that other guys aren't willing to make and work that hard to make. He's relentless. He lines up right side, left side, inside. He goes where he can win. He's about as close right now to J.J. Watt in his prime in that 4-year stretch we see in this league. I mean, from a size standpoint and effort, how they move him around.
Yes.
Probably as close to JJ as we have seen since JJ was in his prime.
Yeah. Really excited to watch him play this weekend.
About as big a compliment as you can make.
Yeah, I mean,
he was
nothing else needs to be said. Hey, this is the In the Huddle podcast. We do this usually twice a week, usually Tuesdays and Thursdays. Jason Canfora, Brian Baldinger on this edition. Carl Dukes will join us again next week. Please Subscribe, check us out, lock us into your phones, Odyssey app, Spotify. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Occasionally, we're live on Twitter as well. Baldy, let's go to the AFC. I mentioned that Ravens-Lions game last year. The Ravens play the Buffalo Bills, and there's a history here. And the Buffalo Bills were a team that even when Mike McDonald was running the show, found ways to beat the Ravens. They had a 10-point comeback on Baltimore a couple of years ago with Josh Allen leading the way. Ravens righted some things last week for sure, but the secondary, Baldy, it's still, I mean, it doesn't look right. They've allowed the most passing yards in the NFL. And they've known that teams are passing. You knew Gardner Minshew was doing nothing but throwing the second half of the game. You knew Dak Prescott was doing nothing but throwing the second half of the game. They're still having issues.
They are, but I do like the way Kyle Hamilton played last week.
Mm-hmm.
Like he looked like Kyle Hamilton last week. I can't really say that the first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
The way that Zach moved him around, whether he was on the tight end, whether he was a blitzer, whether he was in the deep path, at safety, like I felt like he was impacting that game last week, what he did. So that's encouraging. I feel like this game is going to be one of the trends. I think the Buffalo Bills offensive line is playing better than anybody in football. Mm-hmm. If they want to pound with James Cook, they can do it, and they have done it. If they want to protect Josh Allen and give him time and an extra tick to be able to find Dalton Kincaid on a broken play or to hit Keon, Coleman on a crosser, like they've been able to do it. I mean, right now, can the Ravens? I mean, Josh Allen right now is the runaway MVP of this league. All right, he accounted for 9 touchdowns. He hasn't turned it over. Like he looks special. So what do the Ravens do to muck that up? To really get him back into that turnover mode, to fool him, to chase him. Like I feel like this is Matabike, this is Owe, this is Roquan's blitzing. Like this, they've got to do something to get Josh Allen to make some mistakes in this game. Otherwise, if you let like what Jacksonville did the other day, like he will carve you up. Like he's just that confident right now. And I think the marriage of him and Joe Brady, last year Joe took over midway through the season. They adjusted to a run-first team. That was fine. Now they've had the whole offseason. So you watch the motions and the shifts and the things that they did. Sure that's going to take place. But Josh Allen's the answer right here. Like how do they affect Josh Allen in this game?
No one's been able to run on the Ravens at all. 2.7 to carry. But also, like, no one's really tried. You know what I mean? The Chiefs threw themselves to a lead. The Raiders can't run on anybody, and they were trailing, so it was totally out the window. And Dallas can't run on anybody, and you knew Dak was going to have to throw 40 sometimes for them to win or have a chance to at least keep it close. And he did. You mentioned Buffalo's offensive line. Can they win both ways here? Right? Because the short passing game and all those crossers, like Kyle Hamilton or not, Baltimore cannot defend the shallow. Like they can't defend the middle of the field shallow right now. And I'm looking at Cook and I'm looking at Shakir and I'm saying, like, it ain't Roquan. Like right now, Roquan's not the answer there. Like maybe you put Wiggins on Shakir. I don't know. But like, I'm thinking they could beat them with the intermediate and short passing game. And I'm also wondering if they could, with Josh Allen, if that left hand's okay and he can totally tuck. Could they beat them that way too?
Well, that's why I say I think it's going to be in the trenches. Can Buffalo? They want to run, they want to balance things up. Not sometimes not about how many yards you get, but just how many attempts.
Intent.
So if you can stay with it and not become one-dimensional, where then the blitzes can come and the pressures, knowing what you're going to do. And so James Cook he's a great back. He's got great quickness. He's got excellent eyes. They run a tackle trap both ways. Spencer Brown, Deion Dawkins. It's their number one play. You got to stop that play. If you don't stop it, they'll just keep running it. So they're gonna throw their best stuff at them inside. But they're about as maybe the Eagles are probably the biggest offensive line, but Buffalo's right there. You got a 330-pound center. Their guards are big. Osiris Torrance, they're big inside. The right tackle's playing as good as any right tackle in football, and Spencer Brown. They're well coached. This is a titanic matchup between these two groups.
Let's flip the script, look at it the other way now. Ravens offensively, they got the three-headed monster really going last week for the first time. Derrick Henry plundering the second and third level, right? We're talking 2 explosive runs the first 2 weeks, 4 explosive runs in 3 quarters against the Dallas Cowboys. Like, when Justice Hill comes in, that's a problem too. And obviously, we know what Lamar can do.
Yeah.
Like, people have been saying, what's the Ravens' identity? Like that. That's it, right? They stopped shuffling right tackles. Rosengarten's probably better in pass pro, but guess what? McCary can help us road grade. Like, we're not playing around there anymore. Like, is that who they are? Is that what they need to be?
Well, yeah. I mean, look. I mean, Buffalo is much more sound than Dallas ever was in that game. Dallas acted like they never saw a read option before on the opening drive. They went right down and scored. Buffalo is his own team. They keep their eyes on Lamar's not going to get those kind of runs coming off the misdirection, counter trade stuff that they do. I mean, I could draw up Baltimore's run game in 5 minutes. There's 6 plays that they run. Now, Lamar's the magician. Who has the ball and what's the mesh point, all that stuff. It's legit. But Buffalo is very sound. Fundamentally, they're very, very sound. They're not the biggest group up front. So if Falele is leaning on Ed Oliver, he outweighs about 100 pounds. I mean, there's some mismatches inside.
Yeah.
But Buffalo they're very athletic. They fly to the ball. They don't make mistakes on the back end of their defense. And so the key to Derrick Henry, honestly, and it has always been, is you got to get to him before he gets to you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you got to get him behind the line of scrimmage. You got to run blitz. You can't let him find that daylight like he did last week. And because nobody wants to tackle him in the secondary, like when he gets going like that. But teams have shown that you could shut down Derrick Henry. But you have to be now. The difference is, all right, if you're doing all that, Lamar can take off, or Justice Hill with their speed can take off. So you have to have an answer for that.
Baltimore's running more 12 personnel than anybody in the league, and myself, a lot of people who study them, thought that. However, Baldy, the passing efficiencies aren't there. Mark Andrews has 8 targets all year. You got to go back to games 10, 11, 12 of his career. You got to go back 78 games to find a 3-game regular season stretch where he's seen that little of the ball thrown his way, and likely had a great half against the Chiefs on scramble drills and broken plays. But within the context of the regular offense, and part of that's because the O-line was so bad, but he hasn't showed up either. Like, is that the next step this offense needs to make? Okay, we figured out the ground game. We figured out our offensive line. Now we've got to unlock the passing part out of 12 and 22.
I don't think there's any question about it. I mean, Mark Andrews, you have to look hard to find him. It used to be that's the only guy you looked at, when it was third down. I mean, that's where the ball was going in the red zone. That's the only place the ball was going. And right now, you got to work real hard to see if he's even on the field, which is a statement by itself. I mean, you notice likely far more right now than you do Mark Andrews. So I would say, I don't know how healthy the injury, all those things matter. They can change a player's they can change the way a player plays. But I would think that is the next evolution right now. If you're going to be out there on the field with what they like, that combination, that Mark has to be a bigger part of the passing game right now.
Do you have a lean in this game, Baldy?
Well, I like the way the Bills are playing better, but the one question mark I have is there something wrong with Justin Tucker? Because I know 5 of his 8 misses are, I think 5 of his 8 are beyond 50.
And he's hooking everything to the left. And they're preaching, Baldy. They're preaching it's mechanical.
Okay.
But I'm with you. I don't buy it because they're the only team in the league that has a former kicker and a former punter on their staff. Like, he's been with Randy Brown since he came in the league. Like, Randy Brown, he's a special teams coach. He's a kicking guru. He's been with him forever. And then Sam Cook retires, who's done it at the highest level, and they bring him on staff. So the exchange, everything, like between the punter who used to hold, like, you can't tell me it's a long snapper. Like, they'd have figured that out in 5 seconds. And you're telling me it's mechanical, but between Tucker, first ballot Hall of Famer, Sam Cook, all-pro punter who's on their staff, and Randy Brown, full-time kicking consultant, plus Chris Horton, special teams coach, plus John Harbaugh, who was a special teams coach. And this started last year. And you're telling me it's mechanical, but we're still seeing it in late September?
Well, the one thing about Justin, and look, Randy Brown was the mayor of my town here. I'm best friends with Randy here in New Jersey before he took that full-time job with John. But, the one thing that you could always count on with Justin Tucker is the ball always went straight. He had no hook on the ball. Like, his ball went straight. And his swing in motion was as consistent as anything we've ever seen. And it's not there right now. And I don't know. I'm going to go back and look at the misses. I'm going to probably get on the phone with Randy and see what's going on. I'm going to see Baltimore next week against
Cincy.
Yeah. So, I'll see him in Cincinnati next week. So, but it's a concern because it used to be automatic 3 points, and you just took it. Now, I'm just curious because John's always turned everything over to Randy, whether it's punt, kick, kickoff. What are we doing? Randy was in charge of that. Now, if your guy isn't automatic like he has been, does John on fourth downs now at the 35-yard line, does he march out his kicker or does he go for it? Like, that might start getting into his decision making a little bit and maybe affect his decision making. And before, it was an automatic. So, it's something, it's curious because we never thought this would happen to this guy. And it's a concern if you're the Ravens right now.
Yeah, it is a concern. Ravens at 1-2, troublesome. Baldy, Jags, and Bengals at 0-3. This is a team that went to Arrowhead not that long ago in Cincinnati in the playoffs and landed the only punch that's ever knocked Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes out of a season. And we saw a Jags team not that long ago damn near do the same thing. And they're searching for a win between them. Who's in more dire straits? Who's more cooked?
I think Jacksonville is right now because I trust Joe Burrow. Joe still played great the other night. Had a couple red zone stops, which was he had to score a touchdown every drive to win that game. They didn't do it, but they got Chase, Jamara, Iosevich is a great player. T got back in. Offensively, I think they're going to be fine. Defensively, I got a lot of respect for Lou Anarumo. He's got no defensive tackles right now. They're either hurt or they're not very good, but that's an issue. They got one pass rusher in Trey Hendrickson. They're struggling defense, but I believe they can put up 28-30 on anybody. I can't say that about Jacksonville. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, look, they paid him this year to be a star player, to be a franchise player, and he's not playing at that level at all. But the worst part is I don't feel like the team is rallying around him at all. But why would you? Like, it's just been really spotty play. The line is very average to below average. They don't run the ball well. The things that they were trying to improve this year, the left tackle is going backwards. So the right tackle is banged up and not playing very good. It's not good up front. But Trevor isn't good. And so you're completing 50% of your passes in this league, at this stage of your career. And you get a number one draft pick in Brian Thomas. I know Evan Ingram's been out, and he helps move the chains. This is an offense that looks lost right now.
Yeah, boy, they better find a way to beat the Red Rifle this weekend.
Oh, you know this, Jason. I mean, that owner, you pick an owner. Shad Khan, I don't know. It doesn't make a difference. You get embarrassed on national TV, like that's a hard one. That's a tough one.
Well, they both did. I mean, the Bengals what Jaden Daniels did, and I'm taking nothing away from him, and we were going to end with him anyway, so we might as well segue there. Taking nothing, like when anybody, I don't care if it's Dan Marino, I don't care who, in their third career start, playing in your place in their first road primetime game, eviscerates you on 3rd and forever and 4th and 5 or more with the game on the line repeatedly like this kid did, that's damn embarrassing too. Like, I mean, that's bad all the way around. How special is this young man, Jaden Daniels? He's not going to complete 90% of his passes every week. We know that. But, like, is this
Well, look. I think Cliff Kingsbury has had a lot of experience. Working with Kyler, working with Baker, working with Mahomes, working with Johnny Manziel. Like, he just understands, and he was a quarterback himself in a spread offense. He understands how to get guys open, and he understands how to manipulate defenses with his motions and shifts. And so it's been a really good marriage. Jaden Daniels is an elite athlete and an accurate thrower. That throw to Terry McLaurin for 55 yards, you can't get any better than that. And, and Terry's been asking for that play.
Yes.
And he got behind the defense, and against a good corner, Cam Taylor-Britt, the throw was perfect. The guy's, he's completing 80% of his passes, Jason. I know he was 17 and 19 the other night, but it's 80% in 3 games. Like, he knows, he's just mechanically very, very sound. Now, he's run, 38 times? Like, it's too many. A lot of them are scrambles.
Yeah.
That's the only concern I have is guys that do this, including RG3, who came out hot, when he came out. And I'm not comparing because I think he's better, way better passer than RG. But I think that's the concern is, especially now, Eckler's out. Like, they need another runner with Robinson. If they start leaning on him, because it happened to Kyler too, with Cliff. Like, you can run him too much, and you can fall in love with it, and you can win games because defensively they're a mess. But that'd be my only concern about Jaden right now.
That's going to be a fun one in Arizona. Cliff Kingsbury revenge game.
Yeah.
I could just see this being Jaden Daniels and Kyler Murray. Anything you can do, I can do better, right? Stand on the sidelines watching that guy do something and saying, oh, yeah? Watch, I've been holding this trick in my back pocket. Watch this one. Like, Baldy, I jumped this over at 50.5. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if this game's 33-30 or 36-33. I don't buy either defense. Like, I think both these offenses will be hummed up and ready to go.
If Marvin Harrison Jr. comes out with 3 touchdown catches, it won't surprise me. It really won't. Now, they threw to him 11 times last week. He beat double coverage for a touchdown. They weren't connecting on the deep routes. I think they'll work on it this week, whether it's a go route or conversion route. They seemed a little bit off, but there's no question that if I'm, if I'm Arizona right now, like, I am attacking these corners of Washington with Marvin. And Michael Wilson's fine, and we'll see if the tight end McBride is healthy. Like, he's a difference maker. They couldn't run the ball last week. I would think that they'll get back to James Conner and some of that stuff. But this could be the Kyler and Jaden roadshow right here. This could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, unders have been the way to go early this year, but I think, and especially unders in games with a total of 50 or more, but this is the exception for me. I bet this thing, I don't even want to know where it's going to be Sunday. I would say if you're inclined to go over, I would go over. Now, we thank you for being inclined to watching and listening this podcast. As always, this was In the Huddle. We'll be back next week on Tuesday. Me, Baldy, Carl Dukes. Again, we do this twice a week throughout the football season, and we do it at least weekly through the entire year. We thank you guys for listening, and we will check back in next week. Happy week 4.